Welcome to FI Spotlight. I'm your host, Susan Choi. Today, we're going to cover the topic of omni-channel strategy. The evolution of shopper behavior, whether people are going online or on their smartphones or in store, is affecting traditional marketing methods. There is now a need to get more creative in reaching out to audiences. What are some of the best ways that manufacturers, retailers, and CPG owners can collaborate on to succeed in appealing to the right consumers while still being able to effectively collect and monitor data? For more insights, I'd like to bring in John Carroll, President of Digital Commerce and Advanced Analytics for Acosta Group. John, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Susan. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm very excited about the show today.
I am very excited as well. Let's get it started. So John, can you please share with us overall, top-line insights on omni-channel strategy?
Yeah, if you think about the industry, retail and CPG, the past 5 years, Susan, have been more disruptive than the past 50 years. And it's really driven by three things: technology, convenience, and then obviously the pandemic. Because I would say that from a technology perspective and e-commerce standpoint, the US was behind before the pandemic, and then obviously had to make a fast change and pivot during that time period. I'm going to give you three numbers that I think are really compelling reasons for change, and their percentages: 72%, 81%, and 95%. 72% of CPG trade spend is unprofitable, according to a Nielsen study last year. So that's a $200 billion investment that CPG companies make with retailers from a trade standpoint, and 72% of that is unprofitable. 81% of Gen Z and millennials are actually using a retailer's app in store while they're shopping. So Walmart, H-E-B, Stater Brothers, they're actually using the app in the store to help them not only navigate the store, but also find the right deals for them and information about the products that they're buying. And the last one is 95%, which is probably the most scary number. 95% of the retail growth over the past, call it 18 months, has been price-based. So that's a huge change in an industry that was growing between 1% and 3% a year over the past 10 years. So there's really three important components from a shopper, retailer, and also from a manufacturer perspective. If you're a shopper, you're absolutely looking for more value. We're seeing the dollar channel, the value channel go up significantly. We're seeing Walmart healthy from a sales perspective. So there's definitely kind of a trading off overall for the consumer. And then also the need for convenience through the use of technology. So if you think about all the apps out there, from a restaurant delivery standpoint to the DoorDashes of the world, the Uber Eats of the world, the Ships and the Instacarts and curbside pickup, consumers are really using those apps and using that from a convenience standpoint. From a retailer standpoint, what we've been hearing a lot about is the need to get back to units. And if you think about a retailer's number one asset, it's the actual physical space they have. So those stores have to be productive. In order to be productive, they have to have the unit throughput. So we're hearing a lot of that from a retailer standpoint. They've experienced price increases and retail increases from a dollar standpoint, but units are down. And that's something that they want to correct. They want to drive profitability, and they want to drive shopper loyalty. From a manufacturer perspective, it's pretty simple. How do I build my brand? How do I drive loyalty with my brand? And then how do I maintain these price increases that I've gotten over the past couple of years? And how do I get smarter about how I do promotion? So overall, it's definitely I don't want to overuse the word disruptive, but I would call it a really disruptive and a bit of a convoluted environment from a retail and a CPG standpoint and an industry perspective. But it's a great time to be in the industry because there's a lot of innovative solutions that are coming along, whether that's AI or better relationship development and strategic thought process and insights between retailers and manufacturers.
That dovetails nicely into my next question based on what you've just said. It sounds like the ripeness for innovation right now that seems to give added value and potential for profitability in something like retail media networks. That's a strategy that's been such a hot topic right now. Can you share with us, John, your insights about that?
Yeah, we're very focused on retail media networks at the Acosta Group. We have a lot of questions with our clients and the retailers we work with. We think it's a really important component in how to effectively reach the shopper. It's really existential for a retailer. When we look at retailer profitability in e-commerce, Most retailers are unprofitable from an e-commerce perspective. We did an analysis on a $100 basket about a year ago. And if it's delivered to the home, it's negative $4 from an operating income standpoint or profitability standpoint. If it's picked up from curbside, it's just a little bit less from a profitability perspective there. So retailers need to have these retail media networks. But what we have found is they're using this as, hey, I need the money from a manufacturer standpoint. I want brand money. I want other money to come in here. Our point of view is we have to look at retailer media networks as part of the total marketing mix. Your traditional brick and mortar trade spend on availability and merchandising and pricing and space. We also need to look at it on how to best reach the shopper. So thinking about things like lifetime value, new to brand, awareness, frequency, reach, and then also getting really smart about how to target the shopper. So they're an important part of the marketing mix. And what we're seeing now is it's not as siloed as it was before. It's not just the marketing teams coming in and saying, I'm going to spend money on retail media networks. It's now more part of the total planning process between the retailer, the sales team, and also the marketing team. This is where we see the best-in-class companies moving.
Absolutely. Again, going back to what you were saying in the first question, John, a certainly exciting time in terms of the potential for innovation, but also a pretty confusing time for those industry insiders out there watching this, to share, with potentially retailers that are fellow retailers that are viewing this video. John, what can you say would be, some effective ways that retailers out there can effectively implement omni-channel strategy into their workflows?
What we need to realize and what retailers need to think through is that the experience in store is not just a physical experience, it's a digital experience, because those shoppers are using those apps in stores. They're looking for the digital coupons. They're looking for inspiration on what to do for dinner tonight. So I think first and foremost is to really understand that these things have to work together. Your physical shelf plan needs to link to your digital shelf plan. We're big believers, and our consultation back to our clients and to retailers is you have to have one go-to-market strategy that links digital and physical together, because that's how the shopper is shopping today. So the best-in-class retailers, and I think about how Walmart's doing it, I think about how Kroger's doing it, I think about how Target's doing it, they're starting to think that way. And in fact, what's really interesting, if you look at retailers like Walmart and Target, their merchants are responsible for not only the physical shelf and what happens at brick and mortar, they're also responsible for what's happening from a digital perspective, not just from an investment perspective, but how those digital shelves are doing. So I think that's where we're moving, and that's how we need to think about the business moving forward from a joint business plan perspective, focused on the shopper and realize that the shopper is both a physical and a digital shopper.
And what I see as the big question here, how can manufacturers, CPG owners, and retailers effectively work together to be able to see ideal results in using this omni-channel strategy? Being able to, effectively, see sales and appealing to, the ideal mass amounts of consumers, and also being able to collect and effectively monitor shopper behavior.
Yeah, I think this is the most exciting thing for me, being in the industry for 35 years, is that we're really morphing into a change that I think is important from a collaboration standpoint. And what we heard at FMI this year, talking to all of the top retailers and talking to the CPGs, but mostly the retailers, which is a very different message, was the importance of having strategic alliances, the importance of having good strategic discussions. And from a retailer perspective and manufacturer standpoint, that has to be focused on the shopper. Who's the shopper? Who's the most loyal shopper from a retailer standpoint? And what brands do they prefer? And then manufacturers linking up with retailers in a good joint business plan to identify the brands and the shoppers that link together and developing the right plans against them. And I think, the days of the circular and the paper coupons and stack it high and sell it low, that's morphing and changing to a more, what I would call, targeted way to grow the business, which is understanding, how do I target that shopper through good retail media or digital assets, or in store, the right shopper with the right brands to maximize my investment? Because that's what we're all after. We're trying to inspire the shopper. We're trying to reward the shopper for brand loyalty and for retailer loyalty, but we've got to do it in a different way now. And I think that's really the future of this industry from a collaboration perspective.
And John, I have to ask you, based on your breadth of experience, you've done it all. You've worked at Procter & Gamble and the Coca-Cola Company. Now you're working in analytics with Acosta Group. What do you think is the number one thing that manufacturers and CPG owners need to keep in mind when working with retailers, and vice versa, in order to, continually foster a good working relationship, not just when it comes to omnichannel strategy, but overall?
Yeah, retail is a hard job. It really is. And if I think about the merchants and I think about the people that are working at retail, they've got big jobs, and they're on Zooms all day or Teams all day, talking to manufacturers. They see lots of pitches, and the most important thing that a manufacturer needs to understand is that retailers do see a lot of brands and a lot of opportunities. In order for manufacturers to be effective, what they need to understand is what the retailer is trying to accomplish. What's the retailer's overall strategy in the marketplace? Who are their shoppers? And then what are they trying to accomplish to build their business? How are they trying to drive customer loyalty? Understand that first, and then actually tailoring plans, strategies, tactics, and ideas, and working with the vehicles that the retailer has really to help that come to life with the shopper. That's how to really get to a retailer in a positive way. That's how to get to top of mind from a retailer perspective as well. So I think those manufacturers need to understand that. I think retailers also need to think about things less transactional. I mean, their job has always been to extract as much value, as much of that $200 billion of trade spend as they can, and as they possibly can, to build their business and build their bottom line. But I think they need to be less transactional. And what I like to always say is, are you a buyer or are you a seller? Because at the end of the day, it's all about selling products to the shopper with the retailer and the manufacturer. So being less transactional, being more strategic, and then finally opening up more from a data perspective. If I look back 20 years ago, we had access to data from a Nielsen and IRI standpoint. We had category management processes. We both looked at data, and we were trying to do things that were good on behalf of the category. I think that's shifted a little bit, especially with the data and the loyalty information that retailers have. They're trying to monetize that data. So I think opening up that data a little bit more, and manufacturers opening up on how they think about their business and combining that together. And then the last thing I would say, especially when it comes to relationships, is what's more important now than ever, since we don't have a lot of live discussions, we have more Teams discussion, is walking the store with the buyer, having lunch with the chief merchant, and then participating in the conferences and the trade shows like FMI, like NACDS, like NACS, like NRF, making sure that you have a good presence there and you're making those live meetings, and you're having those good, healthy discussions about the business face to face.
Putting in that face time, keeping up with the relationships makes a lot of sense. John Carroll, President of Digital Commerce and Advanced Analytics for Acosta Group. John, thanks again for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Susan. It was fantastic. I appreciate the time.
And as always, you can check out all the great content that we've done by clicking on this playlist. Till next time, I'm Susan Choi. Take care.